Hello, everybody. Welcome to my favorite shitty movie. We are back. It's true. The country is still here, sort of. Welcome. We have fan favorite, Uber fan extravaganza himself, known as Jeff Luce, who really corrects Todd and I. Let's face it, we both need a lot of correction. He is now joining the program tonight. He's back as our special guest, and he is bringing the 2004 James L. Brooks offering, Spanglish, for the program tonight. We were talking a little bit before the show started about how different our world is 20 years later. I guess we just did reelect a Republican president, so maybe we haven't changed that much, but certainly the mores and the kinds of pictures that Sony makes, this is probably not going to be made today. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, we're going to get into in the conversation about the film. I loved revisiting it only in that I'd seen it. I went opening night because I'm a James L. Brooks girl. Loved Taya Leone. Got really lucky that she said yes to a show I produced and with Madam Secretary. I had remembered her performance vividly. And revisiting it now, older, 20 years later, it was interesting to come back to it because it also feels like something I don't see a lot from movie star type people, which is particularly actresses. I think there's a built-in desire to be loved and beloved and cool. And Taya absolutely leans into playing a super hateful, highly neurotic, crazy West Side Los Angelino of extreme privilege and questionable morals and total narcissistic tendencies. And it's like she doesn't care. She's often photographed to her disadvantage, which is hard because she's so gorgeous. She falls out of bed looking like that. But she's not concerned with vanity. She's not concerned with being liked. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. I think these kinds of women are real. Having grown up in Orange County and gone to Pepperdine, I've been around some of it and been working in this industry. But it's interesting, given that James L. Brooks starts off in television with great things like the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which is a link to the great Cloris Leachman, who also plays Taya's mom in this film. She's back. And then Adam Sandler, who I'm a sucker for Adam Sandler when he gives dramatic performances. I think he's really winning and has more range than he's given credit for a lot of times. So I enjoyed his performance in this film, but it's a little bit of a landmine to unpack perhaps the story and some of the happenings of this movie. Before we get too much further in, I want to bring up my co-captain in mayhem, the great Todd Anderson. Todd, bring yourself back up.
On the left.
Oh my God, her neurotic shit in this film is beyond Woody Allen caliber.
She's trying to like emasculate literally everybody.
Yes,
like women and men are less than her. On the left.
It's insane. Yeah,
I enjoyed her performance in this movie. I thought this movie is really interesting to me. I've managed to not see it until now. I had no choice but to watch it because I'm dedicated to this program. And I get the love for it. Where there is love for it, I get it. James L. Brooks is really good at casting first and foremost.
Yes.
And writing those scenes that like can jerk your tears. I'm not gonna lie, there were a couple times in this movie where I was like, and then I was like, give me a break, Todd. Jesus. Like, stand up for yourself. Don't be manipulated like this.
But sweet in this film, and we should also give a shout out to another great beauty in this film, Paz Vega, who is, I think this might have been her American debut, but she, again, established star in her own country, came to do this. If the world were more just, we'd be seeing her. I got lucky and when I was working with Morgan Freeman's company, we produced a little indie called 10 Items or Less that Brad Sibling directed with Morgan and Paz Vega, and Paz playing off of Morgan in a very improvised script, which was odd for Morgan. Morgan's the script guy. He doesn't want to improv, and she, of course, was playing in a different language. And together they found this kind of beautiful rhythm. I think Paz is the nicest woman, super beautiful and talented. And I just feel like, Hollywood, what up? Call her. Like, we need.
I mean, this movie, like, if any movie ever leaned on its cast, this is it. I mean, and everybody's very good, and the kid actors are great,
Aren't they?
and that's
And the daughter has gone on to like rock The Good Wife and The Good Fight, and she's been on Broadway. Very talented, but yeah, it's remarkable. Like you're right. He's like an actor's director. I mean, everyone kind of is.
Yeah, and the kids are good. I mean, like that's the thing. It's like, Spielberg is one of those guys who can do it. Like some people are just really good at casting kids.
Yeah.
I would say Chuck Lorre is really good at casting kids too. Finding those kids that feel like they're seasoned actors, like they know what they're doing, is really hard. A Haley Joel Osment doesn't come along very often, and
Right.
I think the kids in this are up to that same standard. So,
Yeah.
God bless Brooks for casting good kids, because we've all seen the movies with the kids who aren't good, and it's very distracting.
Yes.
Very distracting.
Not everyone can be Jodie Foster. It's true.
No.
Let's
But there are more than you think. I think that's the important takeaway here. There are more than we think, and we forget about, the performances in movies like this. You remember the giant ones like E.T. and all that stuff, but movies like this, you forget about the kid performances, and we shouldn't, because they're really good.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's consistently that guy, and I think part of the joy of watching his films, even the ones that perhaps are less successful. I mean, I think obviously got the Oscar for Terms of Endearment. I'm a broadcast news girl. I think that's like
I love broadcast news, but it's like heartbreaking. I mean, that's the thing. That's the dramedy thing that Brooks does. Is like he will make you laugh. Like broadcast news is the perfect you're laughing so hard you're crying, and then you're just crying.
Yeah. Very honest treatment of all those characters, I think. But let's bring Jeff in, because I can't wait. I mean, Jeff brings us all these really cool movies that are kind of all over the place in the genre map, which I just love. For long-term watchers / listeners, will know that Jeff has been here before. He describes himself as a dude who's originally from Western New York. He grew up mostly in Pensacola, Florida, of course. He's a former U.S. Marine. He's lived in Okinawa, Japan, San Diego, Jacksonville. He's actually an insurance claims adjuster, so it's very double indemnity, perhaps. I don't know. He has absolutely no connection to Hollywood, which is probably why he's super sane. We're super excited that he's our big fan and he's here. We want to welcome him, Jeff, back to the program. Jeff, come on up. Woo!
Hey,
hello, everybody.
What's up, man?
Welcome.
Not too much. How's it going?
It's going. It's going. It's going. Thank God for Spanglish to lighten things up.
Right, exactly. You had mentioned Chuck Lorre doing a good job of casting kids. Young Sheldon, all three of the kid actors in there are freaking great.
Yeah.
The one that played the kid Sheldon and the brother and sister. Like the brother got his own show now. Got his little spinoff of Young Sheldon.
Look at that.
George and Maggie's first
marriage. I just self-taped for that show. I just self-taped.
Hey.
What's funny is the guy who, over Zoom did the off-camera lines for me. Like 2 hours after I auditioned, he got the same audition. And I was like, well, I'm glad you didn't get that before you helped me, because you would have torpedoed my shit, man.
Oh.
Right. Wow.
He assured me he would not have. He would not have. But,
Hollywood is something else, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's just so many talented people out there who just aren't getting the work they deserve. I recently went and watched the Queen of the Ring when it was on festival here.
Oh.
And the star was Emily Bett Ricard from Arrow, playing Felicity Smoke.
Yeah.
After Arrow ended, her filmography is hit a standstill for that movie. So I hope she gets more work.
Yeah.
Many talented people out there aren't getting the work they deserve.
I feel
it's weird when careers, especially like young kids or young adults, like when they have a run and they're in 3 or 4 great things and then they just disappear. Somebody was pointing out that about the kid actor from Meatballs, who's Bill Murray's best friend, and he's the kid in My Bodyguard and a couple other movies. And they're all good 80s movies, and then he just stopped.
Make peace.
Yeah, Chris Makepeace, right? With like My Bodyguard, those kinds of guys.
Well, and I'm just wondering, is it like did he age up to a point where now he didn't look cute anymore, and so everybody's like, I don't know what to do with him, or is it that he was like fuck off and bailed? You know, I mean, a lot like when Ashley Judd disappeared for a long time, I was like she was in everything. She's a giant star. Why did she disappear? And I was like, that's weird. And then later I found out why. It's because of Harvey Weinstein. And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, you know? And a lot, and people have stalkers and they bail or whatever. It's just like, and a lot of kid actors too. I think they suffer abuse.
Brad Renfro. Oh my God. Speaking of Brad Renfro, I just watched, there's a like 4.5-hour documentary on the Chucky film series on Shudder.
Oh, yeah.
Just enjoyed the hell out of Brad Renfro behind the scenes and his interview.
I just started watching that. I'm only on Chucky 2.
Yeah, they're very honest about it. They're like, we don't know what happened in Chucky 3, but then curse the Chucky, and it's anyway. I highly endorse it. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. I was curious, Jeff, because again, you always bring us we did like all the marbles. I mean, we've done like thrillers. What was it about Spanglish? Did you see it in the theaters? Did you discover it on video? Like, what was your experience with the first time you saw the film and why it stayed with you?
Okay, so I think you guys know that I'm a big Sandler guy. So I'm pretty much will watch him in anything. Then Jack and Jill happened, and I had to put the brakes on for a little bit and come back to him. But I saw this movie in the theaters multiple times because I really am a fan of Sandler. And everybody fell all over themselves to praise Punch Drunk Love, and I'm not that big of a fan of that movie. And the number one reason is Paul Thomas Anderson. He didn't get the most important thing out of his Sandler performance, and that's the sweetness of Adam Sandler. Right? So when this movie come out, this is his second dramatic role, and James L. Brooks, he nailed it.
He knew how to do it, yeah.
He knew he's doing drama, but everything that you love about Big Daddy, Little Nicky, Billy Madison, Adam Sandler was still there for you while it was being a dramatic role. If you catch my meaning, I hope that's not like
but also I love the idea, and this is getting harder and harder to do at the studio level because everything is IP, Marvel, comic book, whatever. But the idea that somebody like James L. Brooks, we used to have directors that actors wanted to work with because their work, like Robert Altman has a new movie. You want to be in that if you're an actor. For a time it was Woody Allen, right? Every year Kubrick is making a movie, gotta go. And so you as actors, there's certain directors that I think really appeal. And they know they love actors, and it shows, and their work is reflective of that. And I love that Sandler was making a mint, doing a lot of good big comedies, but he's like, I want to grow. I want to work with James L. Brooks. And it helps James L. Brooks because he's got a bona fide movie star, but then the movie star gets to show he's more than just Little Nicky. And no shade, but it's like he really has range. And I think also with Sandler, it's funny, I know you're a fan. One of the things that I remember at the time it happened in the industry, there was a little bit of, Jack and Jill happened. So I think we all clocked that. But his films
deal breaker.
do this with the box office. And before it was cool, before anyone else was doing it, Sandler was the first big star that landed a deal at Netflix. He understood before a lot of other people, if I want to do the kind of comedy that I'm known for, the diminishing returns of the box office and perhaps quality of the Sony pictures he was making, he went right to Netflix. And he's just once or twice a year, he's putting out things that always are number one film at Netflix, whether it's the murder mystery stuff with Aniston or his own brands of comedies that he does. So I think he's a really wise business guy. And from what I hear, is like he employs his friends for years. It's like it's a family affair. And
for better or worse.
For better, for worse, but he's very loyal. And I think in a town that's not always the case. Like, again, props to Sandler for like being relevant and figuring it out.
I've never heard anything bad about him as a person. I only hear he's very gracious and kind and generous. I am a fan of like the dumb man boy Adam Sandler comedies. I do like it. I know a lot of people don't, but and not just women. I have my male friends are like, what the fuck is this? I just, I just like that. I like dumb stuff,
Oh,
and
we
and there
also,
isn't enough dumb comedy anymore. And like Sandler and Netflix, you like a Palm Springs, like, which is a really smart dumb comedy. It's like the only place to get that is streaming. They don't put that in theaters anymore, and it's a bummer because watching something as dumb as Billy Madison or Happy Gilmore in a crowd is it's like
right.
way more it's a much better experience and way more comforting in a way. It's like, I like this stuff.
Kind of miss going to an Adam Sandler movie and people just coming in screaming the Royal Room.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't even matter if it's not Billy Madison,
yeah.
but
Yeah,
I
Billy Madison is like one of my go-to comfort food when I'm in the mood for something stupid, and I've seen Dumb and Dumber 2 recently. Then I go with Billy Madison every time.
I
So,
love Billy Madison. And Bulletproof, I think, is a kind of an underrated.
interesting.
Yeah, it's really
That,
fun.
actually, that's an interesting point because one of the things that I've wished for Adam Sandler, and Bulletproof is one of the very rare examples of an R-rated comedy that he did. And then there's That's My Boy, I think, was R-rated as well. But there just isn't enough R-rated Sandler. I would like to see more of that, like his stupid comedy, but not PG-13, not for families.
Right. But I also think a part of his appeal, he's smart to go to Netflix for younger generations to kind of Netflix and chill, but like we grew up with him. So there's a comfort factor of like, okay, it's like we through his career. So I think you just root for him. And I think James L. Brooks wisely casts him in this film. I'll let Jeff kind of walk us through the plot where it's like there's such a likability about Sandler that there's not a moment where you feel he's pathetic or he's a cuckold or he's whatever, because there's so much built-in love for him. And that, to Jeff's point, there's a heart factor with Sandler that James L. Brooks. So you don't feel bad.
But I did think that, like, first-time viewer here, but I did think he was a bit of a doormat.
He's a doormat, but I don't think
I
he's
have an opinion on that later on in the plot.
sweet. There's a sweetness to him that
it's really sweet. It's sort of one of those things about if male characters are sweet in movies, especially dramedies, then they're gonna kind of be pushover doormats. It's like there's got to be a happy medium somewhere where you have an interesting character who's both masculine and also sweet, but doesn't like fucking roll over. I mean, I maybe John Goodman in the Roseanne show, originally was sort of that. He was a guy who held on to his guyness, but he had a heart of gold. So I don't know.
Statham in the first Transporter.
Who's in the trunk? So, Jeff, for those who have not seen this film, maybe ever, or at least in the 21 years since it's been released, walk us through what's the story of Spanglish with Paz Vega and her little kid.
Okay, so her husband left her for whatever reason. We don't ever find out, and she decides that it's going to be better for her and her daughter for her to come to America. And I like the phrase that Amy Garcia, who's kind of our narrator in the movie, uses in her letter that she writes to try to get accepted into Princeton. Is, I'm not going to say exactly how we came to America, but let's just say it was economy class.
Yeah, right.
Coming so legally. And so that's kind of sweet, but there was a lot of pushback on this movie when it first came out because Paz, how do you say her first name? Is it Paz or Paz?
Paz Vega. Paz
Vega. Paz Vega. She's a Spaniard. She's not Mexican. And I think a lot of people took issue with that. And I can respect that. You could have hired, if you're looking for a big star who's Mexican, Selma Hayek is right there. And of course, her and Adam do grown up, but
That's
true. But the thing about I don't want it to get lost here is just how amazing that Paige Vega was in this movie.
Mhm.
Supposedly, she didn't know any English as she's going into production, and she learned English on the set
Yeah.
during the course of filming. Which, okay, it's a great story, but what was the production time? 20 days or something? You don't learn English in 20 days, but it's a
Well,
great
but
story.
Jeff, you're bringing up a good point because the other thing I was looking up, which blows my mind by today's standards, was that he was given $80 million to make this film, which only made 55 million at the box office. So huge flop. But $80 million, just for reference, people, the first Deadpool movie was 30 million, like what, 15, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. So like the idea that you would give $80 million to a talking head movie with a couple locations, I get one's in Malibu, but like that level of studio filmmaking for this kind of a story is not happening anymore.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And so one thing I appreciate about this, and maybe this is just because I'm a white dude, I don't know what it's like to be um, of Latin descent and navigating in America. But I respect that the story as is being told is that she doesn't want to lose that part of her, right? She wants to hold on. You can still be American. Hell, Italians still hold on to their Italian heritage,
Yeah.
and nobody bats an eye at that. But if you're from Mexico or Central America, South America, people seem to have a problem that you don't assimilate to become all the way American, which is about one of the dumbest things you can ever say as a human being about another human being. But
And a
I
nation of
digress.
which also watching this film against the tapestry in which we're living, where we have a certain orange person who wants to round up brown folk. It's like, wow, like this level, even some of the lines Taya has, why don't you learn English? Why? I'm like, oh God, it's like we're just so awful, some of us in this country. But yeah, I think it's an interesting meditation on that, but I think it's right. And I don't know that James L. Brooks, I think he had a lot to say here. I feel like this feels like a menopausal male movie where he's exercising feelings he maybe had about his own housekeeper. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm just guessing. But there's something about, I think he's trying to talk, I mean, Spanglish in the title, but it's like no one in this movie really knows how to communicate. Yes, obviously Paz is learning English, but husband and wife don't communicate. Mother and daughter don't communicate. Father and sons are struggling because he can't quite communicate to his staff the way he should, given that he's his boss. And there's this, like, everyone's kind of in their respective bubble. Like I'm in, Westwood, or I'm in, the barrio, or whatever the phraseology is in the particular picture. And I just feel like it's like, how do we connect with each other? And in 2004, I mean, we had the internet, but it wasn't like it is now. So what was also interesting about seeing this film was I didn't see people on cell phone. I didn't see people texting. It's like the last gasp of talking to each other, or not communicating, but still talking to each other, which was wild to see.
I wrote that down, that we don't ever see a cell phone in this entire movie. It's in 2004. I had a cell phone in 2004. Hell, I had one in 1998. But
Yeah, absolutely.
Now the communication thing that you're mentioning now, Sandler's character and his daughter, they actually had a connection and they could communicate with each other. My opinion of this is that it's unfocused. And I think the story that James, coming from TV, I think this should have been a television show that had like 4 or 5 seasons to really explore all of these characters in a proper way. Because whose story is this really? Is it Christina's
Yeah.
story? Is it Flora's story? Is it Don Klasky's story? Is it Deborah Klasky? Whose story is it?
It's not focused.
It's kind of all over the place. I do think it's unfocused. And I think a TV guy tried to consolidate all this into a 2-hour movie. And it probably should have been a long form story. That's just my take on that. I don't know.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. Total.
Yeah,
We should have Jeff take us through the narrative here so we can see some stills.
Yeah, sure. So, okay. So here she comes with her cousin to an interview, and Tia Leone, the cousin. If you go back to the other one, if with the pink shirt on, he walked to the glass door, and Tia Leone gives her money, and it's like, is it weird? I just gave you money, and she just, I mean, just that whole Taya is. You said, she's unlikable, and she just kind
Highly
of leans
neurotic.
into it.
Highly
Yeah,
neurotic.
She's highly
really
neurotic.
leans into it.
Neurotic people are hard to like.
Yeah,
It's
but
true.
she is unlikable, but you're still a little glimmer of, okay, I know that there's something good in there. It just doesn't know how to come out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And she's trying, like the scene you referenced where she gives her money. Like she's trying to do the right thing. She just has no idea what the right thing is.
Yeah.
Because she's sitting in her place of privilege. It's
also it's an interesting introduction, because if we zero into it, like Jeff was saying, right, it's like, the cousin crashes into a spotless glass door, which begs, but you're hiring a housekeeper, but the door is already spotless, which already tells you everything you need to know about Taya. Oh, I was thinking I could put something on there, maybe like a thing so you don't cry. And she just like does this monologuing, and you're like, honey, you're there and you're neurotic and you did that. And so it's kind of a character thing before she even opens her mouth. You're like, oh God, this is going to be a mess. This is a very high strung West Side lady.
yeah.
A lot of means.
As she's interviewing the cousin who's interpreting for Floor,
Yep.
and that's a nice little scene because Taya's character cannot say Floor with the little rolling R, and that's so funny to me. But she just keeps saying floor, like what I walk on.
Yeah.
And
I love the ultimate. Wait, is there something I'm not hearing? Like she never gets it right, and everybody else gets it immediately. Like
yeah, it's so funny. And then so she's interviewing, and then she goes, and she's just looking at Paige Vega, and she goes, "You're gorgeous. You're gorgeous. You're gorgeous." Like 4 or 5 times, and then Cloris Leachman, who I think anchors this film,
yes,
because she's just awesome. I love her so much. She's like, that's not a compliment. That's an accusation.
Yeah, totally. That's the Mary Tyler Moore wit, where you're like,
I think my favorite moment in that movie is when Taya Leone says to Cloris Leachman, "Mom, it's not even noon," and then the clock just like clicks to noon, and Cloris Leachman goes,
yeah, these like out the door pours, it's
yeah. Leachman's
a lot of
so
apple
good in this movie. So good.
Yeah,
she's amazing.
So but again, it's also like, in this film, I get that it's in 2004 where it's set, but also the idea that, Paz is working multiple jobs to try to make $450 a week. She's trying to negotiate. And then Taya does this kind of, again, like the white lady thing of like, well, how much do you want? And she's like, well, no, what are you offering? She's like, no, because you either ask for too much and you're taking advantage, or you ask for too little and then you don't value yours. And it's like, she's mind fucking this poor woman who doesn't speak English, who, and I love the idea where she gets more money than what she was asking for, but it's still so little considering what these folk have and what you're asking to have 2 kids. The boy, I feel like part of I think you're right, Jeff, this is in focus. 2 things that are really in focus. We'll get to it plot-wise when we get to the plot to it, but I felt like the little boy must have had scenes that are mostly cut out of the film because you barely see him. And then when you have Taya being picked up by the hot realtor who's like Mr. Sideways, like Hayden Church, you're just like, he clearly had a role. Like he's like a cameo, but you're like, you cast this guy, something's off with focus of that. She's
I forget who the cinematographer is, but supposedly they shot 2 million feet of film for this movie.
It's
so much film was used that Kodak actually like sent them a thank you. So tell me, 2 million feet of film, like how long is that? Not in distance, but in time.
Yeah. Well, it's also looking up his credits. So John Seals, the DP, who did small films like The English Patient, Rain Man, Witness, Cold Mountain, Mad Max Fury Road, Children of Lesser God, Dead Poet Society, The Firm, Talented Mr. Ripley, and Harry Potter, Sorcerer's Stone, and Spanglish. So it's like, okay, that's quite a credit list.
with 2 million feet of film, this just seems kind of like overkill. Like, what were you shooting?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Apocalypse now, man. Like, what's happening? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Seems kind of like you probably could have cut the budget down by a couple $1 million just by cutting a few feet of film out of there.
Just film stock alone. For sure. But you also start to see the neuroses. I love the runner with the dog. Taya's like, never throw the ball in the house for the dog. And of course, Taya's just a nerd, right? She just wants to control everything. And it's just like this runner where the poor dog is just, but it comes back.
I mean, she's doing it like the thing about this whole comic sequence is about burying the lead. She never explains why. She's just like, no!
Oh, I'm not yelling at you, but I am yelling at you. I'm like,
she can't explain why because of the language barrier, but she doesn't even try. She's just like, no!
Yeah. And it's so you see the neurosis, but the idea that the lady of the house is hiring somebody to take care of the kids and doesn't run it by the husband. I mean, I don't know. Does that happen? But like, interesting choice that she's so in control of the household. But then you very quickly see Sandler comforting her that Taya's just a hot mess. Like, it's like she kind of has a little bit of, I used to have my job and then I got downsized and now I'm here. And you can tell she's a woman in transition of like, what's my role? What's my identity kind of a thing. And the sweetness on Sandler. I mean, the way he talks and looks at his son, like, dude is so natural. Like, I really want him to do more drama.
I like that scene a lot. You're right. Both the kid and Sandler are very believable as father and son.
100%. There's just a love between them. And we quickly learn, right? Talk to us about like what Adam does for a living, Jeff.
Yep. So he's a high-end chef. He gets, according to the movie, he had been a big-time chef in New York. And now he's got a smaller restaurant in Los Angeles. He likes being under the radar. And so we find that a big-time critic from New York is coming all the way to LA to review his restaurant, which makes absolutely no sense. But
totally, right?
Like the LA Times could come and review it. The New York Times is not going to send a food critic all the way to LA to review a restaurant.
It's like waiting for Guffman, but it's real. It's not a fantasy that he has in his head.
Yeah, you're right. It's an odd choice, but it's a specific choice. But again, I think there's something about the backstory of I used to be in New York. Now the New York guy is coming. I have a feeling there's something on the editing floor of those 2 million rolls of film because it's so specific a choice to mention.
They have a relationship. They're friends. Something. It was it was probably cut out of the movie.
So can you put that still back up so we can show the female sous chef?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, the woman right there. That she's a sous chef, and so Adam is, when he finds out the Times is coming, he's like, he didn't want them to come because he thinks that if he gets a really 4-star review, everybody's going to turn into an asshole because that would happen in New York with his restaurant, and he's like, people's accents change, and he doesn't want that. He wants to be, a great restaurant. He wants to be a great chef, but he wants to be low key. And as he's saying that, I wrote this down because I think this is hilarious. That lady, she's like, I agree with everything you just said. I admire you for your feelings. I hope to adopt them as my own one day.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my God. It's so funny. I just love that. It's just because it's small. It doesn't even need to be there because she doesn't really have any character arc at all other than the few moments we see her. But you can see that she has a reverence for him. That's why she would say something like that.
Yes. I think
there's
more scenes with her because she's quite an accomplished actress too, and so good. And it feels odd to only have these bit parts, which goes back to, I think you nailed it at the top. It's unfocused because there's all these subplots. Some of them are just dropped. You've cast too big an actor to have basically a glorified cameo in a lot of these moments. So I think he was trying to find, and it runs at 2 hours and 15 minutes or so. So it's a longer film.
It definitely is got early Judd Apatow disease. There is sometimes there's two things you can cut. You can cut like a comedy bit that is really funny but doesn't have anything to do with the narrative, or you can slice the narrative up a little bit. You can go either way, but you have to make a choice. And I feel like Brooks and Apatow are both guilty on multiple occasions of not, trimming really.
And I think to Jeff's point, also, I think is really apt is that whose story is this? Because there's a lot of this film dedicated to this Taya being this like kind of hateful, manipulative person. And one of the things I thought was so heartbreaking watching it again, especially because Taya's preternaturally gorgeous and I think was kind of born a size 2 and then is a jock on top of it, right? But when she buys, her kind of chubby young preteen, it looks like maybe, clothes that don't fit and purposely gets her these lower size, too small for her clothes. And the look on Paz's face, because Paz is a mom first. She's come to this country to better her, chances in life for her daughter. And to watch somebody of, Taya's extreme privilege do this and to watch her own daughter being undone. There's a really beautiful moment there, but it's also like this heartbreaking thing that by design, you're setting the audience up to like just not like Taya, but to what end? What story? What is her arc? What does she learn? And again, with someone like who wrote Broadcast News in Terms of Endearment, those films have clear arcs of really strong women. And I'm not sure that the character as written, I don't know. I think these women are very real, but I don't think it's his best female character, in the pantheon of Jane Craig from Broadcast News and stuff. But I thought it was like this heartbreaking moment, and that Sandler can't talk to his own wife, and then Vince, as he's taking the maid to the bus stop, because he feels a little helpless. He saw what happened to his little girl, and it's just heartbreaking. He's not communicating together. He can't say what he should have said in front of the daughter to support her, and it's the beginning of that awkwardness,
Yeah,
for sure.
I like the little comedy bit that comes out of that where she hops out of the car and she doesn't know what to do, and he's like, come on, get back in, I gotta take you all the way, and he goes like 5 feet and I took you all the way.
It kind of reminds me of that bit in The Jerk. He's hitchhiking and a guy in a pickup truck picks him up, and the jerk says, where are you going? And he goes, the end of this fence. So he puts his bag in the back, gets in, they drive to the end of this very short fence, and then he says, thanks, man, and gets out, and he's still standing in front of his house.
Or like even like Steve Martin, again, same gig in LA Story where he like drives 2 houses down on the street. Oh, yeah. It's an LA thing, right? We don't drive.
He just pulls out and then pulls back in next door.
There's this contrast, though, and this is where I wanted to kind of ask what you both thought about this as the token white chick of the program, where you see Taya decimate her little girl with buying her clothes to making her heavy. And then there's this beautiful moment where Paz, as the mom, goes home and basically, fixes the outfit and gives her some more room on the button so that the girl can wear the clothes. And then, and it's usually talked about in the black-white film dynamic in our country, the magical Negro theory, as it was coined by, it was like this magical black person comes in, Legend of Bagger Vance, which we did on this show, and says, let me tell you about life. I mean, golf. I mean, life is a metaphor. I mean, golf. I mean, life. And, and it's like, I'm just going to fix you. And there's a little bit of like, everybody in this needs some help, but there's a little bit like she's this magical figure, who comes from the border, who helps these highly neurotic, successful white folks try to talk to one, and that's really complicated if you look at it through perhaps modern eyes. What did you think watching it again today, Jeff, and then you, Mr. Anderson, for this time today? What did that ever cross your mind? Like, ooh, are we skating close to that, or what did you think?
I don't know. I think that whole sequence is both heartbreaking and heartwarming all at the same time, and take talent to be able to walk that line.
Yeah.
And yes, this movie does suffer from some writing issues. That actually is pretty good writing. I will give him credit for that, because your heart is breaking for this young woman who just wants to be herself, and her mom is trying to force her to be something that she's not, you know. And here comes, you know, Paz Vega. I'm sorry I keep saying her name wrong. I just I've always said it that way,
Oh, good.
and it's really hard. And I don't mean any disrespect. So
No,
Paige
I,
Vega.
Like on
I
pause.
have the same problem with Cheech Marin because I grew up calling him Cheech Marin.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
And
so, like, I have to remind myself, no, it's Mark Marin, it's Cheech Marin.
yeah.
yeah,
But
but see, the so your heart is breaking, and then all of a sudden your heart feels because
it's so
I'm an old softie. I might yes, I was a Marine, and I might look like I'm just no, I'm a big softie, and I will freaking cry when you hit the right note. I ain't ashamed to say that. You hit the right note, and I will bawl like I skinned my knee when I was 2 years old. So I love that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
that's the power of movies. And I think more people like I love that. We go to the movies to be, I mean, I don't want to be Nicole Kidman here, but somehow heartbreak at a place like this feels better. But it does. It's like the communal experience of feeling those things. And I feel like it's interesting. Todd, what did you think, Todd? I mean, because you're seeing it for the first time out of time.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about this? She's this magical figure who comes in to try to fix these people, or did that not bug you at all? Or
Um, you know, you know, it didn't bug me on like I was worried about like racism within the fabric of the movie, and I just thought it was kind of sappy when I first saw it. But again, at the moment that I saw it, where I thought it was sappy, then later on it comes back, and it's not it's a Chekhovian sappy moment that it comes back, and it changes certain things about the narrative. So I don't know. Like at the time, it didn't bother me tremendously. And then when I saw the way it was used later in the movie, I was like, oh, okay, all right.
it's also kind of an interesting juxtaposition, I thought, of mothering. And I think Jeff's right. It's not focused, but there's still a narrative push here where you go from pause trying to do this thing to make the daughter feel better, and then there's a hard cut to Taya. This is the aforementioned left, where she's like racing these like hot guys, and she has to beat these like dudes, and you're like, you're running up the Westwood Hills, like there's nothing to win here, but this like just neurotic need to be perfect and whatever that encounters, and it's just like this thing where she's so about herself. And here's the woman who ostensibly has been hired to take care of her child, who's actually taking care of her child because the mother just, oh no, it's good for her. She'll lose. I mean, the doctor said she should weigh this. And it's like, girl, but I thought that juxtaposition of two kinds of motherhood was also an interesting thing from a male writer director in terms of let's show different.
It was boiled down to a subplot with Sandra Bullock in Crash, just for the record.
When that movie was one of my favorite epiphanies, where she's this hateful character, much like this character, so totally. But she falls down the stairs, hits her head, and wakes up and goes, I think my mate's my only friend. I was like, you literally hit your head and had an epiphany, and that guy got an Oscar for writing it. The guy from Walker, Texas Ranger has an Oscar for writing person falling down, hitting her head, and having an epiphany. Sorry, I'm still reliving it. I think Brokeback
Mountain. We all are still upset.
I'm so upset about Crash. Okay, sorry, apologies, everybody. But so that happened. But there's also this like interesting moment where you see the joy of the daughter reading her father's beautiful review, and Taya's mom is there for her. And I think this is a really interesting scene because by design, Taya's not there. Brooks kind of stacks the deck and wants to have the people who feel in this movie celebrate Adam. He's even when this moment comes in, Taya's not there. He's alone in his own house with this.
Well, the rest of the family, her mother included, is more connected to him than her. And that's
not connected to herself.
She missed a moment of joy, but then.
Yeah, You know what? There's a whole movie that could just have been made out of Adam Sandler and his daughter's relationship with each other. Like you could have just made a whole movie about that, and it would have been worth. It would have been like,
yeah, I agree.
10.95 or whatever.
They're great together, and she's in that scene where she's reading it. It's just, you can't help but cry to see a daughter who's happy for her dad on that level.
So excited, and then I think it's funny because, and I think it's a dramatic choice from a writing standpoint to not have Taya around. I mean, again, she doesn't have a job. She could have been there, but for whatever reason she isn't. But then when she comes in, it's like she runs up. And this is the part where maybe it's not focused and there's a tonal shift of what are we trying to do, right? I'm going to say, like, Taya is a born comedian. Like, she walks in and is just funny. Like, the way Lisa Kudrow can break up syllables incorrectly, and it's the best thing you've ever heard. Like, she's preternaturally funny. Taya is that person. She walks in, and if there's a spit take to be found, she'll do it. And I felt like her physicality in the moment where she tries to have sex with Sandler, like this, the way she is mounting him, and they're playing this in like her workout clothes and this crazy ass scene. Like, you usually see men in the Taya role when you have this kind of a bad sex scene. It's usually a little bit, and she's just going for it. You're like, this is so awkward.
She definitely. I feel like I'm sorry, didn't mean to step on you, Todd.
Go ahead.
Okay. She watched Serial Mom 5 years before, and she's like, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to put my own spin on it.
Oh my God. Totally. Kathleen Turner. That's a call. That's a
call. We just did Serial Mom, didn't we?
We did. I love Serial Mom. White Shoes after Memorial Day.
Yeah. Great. I was just going to say, I love a PG-13 sex sequence because she never visibly takes her workout gear off.
No.
And she's wrapped in a blanket, and his pants never come off, just his shirt. So they're having Catholic sex, I think, where you rub jeans together.
I also, just as a small detail, like the fact that Sandler, and it feels like an improv, maybe they worked it out, I don't know, but when he literally slaps her stomach because she's so ripped.
Because he's like,
he's like the Foley artist going, with this like ripped, like, mother of two, ladies and gentlemen. I'm like, what? That's a Sandler movie. Like, they were in a James L. Brooks, even in the sex scene, they're like playing with.
Oh, the sex scene for sure is Adam Sandler-y. I have a clip of this very sex scene.
No.
Hillary is Taya Leone, and me as Adam Sandler.
Very special episode.
This is also available on OnlyFans.
You're too beautiful. It's ridiculous.
I like you.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. I love you. Go. That's it. Yeah. All right. All right. All right. Oh, you don't even need me, do you? Oh, that's good.
Oh, yes.
Just go. Go.
Yeah.
It's all you.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
No, don't get sad. You had a good time, I swear. Deb, Cheer up! Deb! Cheer up!
Oh my God, you had a good time. I swear, great delivery. Even Pliskin is up for it. Yeah, Pliskin.
I am, of course, I'm going to be, what's the word here? I'm really smart, and I can't think of the word I'm trying to. But anyway, this is my fourth time on the show, and every time you do a scene from one of the movies I pick, it always goes to the top of the line of the Anderson family reenactment. I'm biased. There you
Yeah,
go.
right.
I'm not that stupid. I couldn't think of the word bias, but yes, I am biased. But yes, every time you do Anderson family reenactment for a movie that I pick, goes to the top. Just goes to the top. That was beautiful.
Committed so hard. Like, I don't know that it's not a better version. Just gonna put that out there. That's a good deal, Todd. Holy cow. It's a very special episode of My Favorite Shitty Movie, guys. So yeah, so that sex scene, which is amazing in the middle of this movie. And it's funny because you start to feel really bad for Mr. Sandler because it's like he is the world's best review. He's basically being called the chef of a generation, which is interesting for LA. He's got the hot wife in theory who's just a disaster. He's not quite saying what he should for the daughter in the moment, and he's feeling lost when he should be feeling great. And so then he goes to work, and it's like people are applauding him, but he still manages, like, his like kind of second in command is like, well, give me 20% of your business, and so I'll stay, or your whole thing is going to fall. But Sandler is such a nice guy. He gives it up, and then he goes back to Taya's character. Wait, you gave up 20% of the business without even talking to me? It's like, girl, like, again, it's he's like, I had to keep him. I want to keep people together, which is a way to divine his character arc, right? I want to keep us together, and she's not listening, and it's part of that. They're not communicating thing that in this movie, but
the guy that played that role of, I guess, his second in command.
Yeah, the middle.
Somebody please feed Phil on Netflix is a great food show. I don't know if you guys ever watched that. That's the guy.
Hillary feels like she really let everybody in on the relationship tonight, and I think that is very true and a very bold choice. Hillary is very Téa Leone-esque.
Very good.
Well done.
He doesn't hit me that much.
Oh, so good. But yeah, so he has to figure it out. And then this is the part, the aforementioned. So Téa, who has, I guess she's a bored housewife. I don't know what Brooks is trying to say. But again, you have Hayden Church over here. Like, he barely speaks. So his entire role must have been cut out, because it's clear that she's looking for, he's a realtor, they find a Malibu house, but you wouldn't cast that guy unless you had more of a sizable part. So something
maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. I have the DVD. There is no extended version of this movie, so I don't know what they did with all the extra 2 million feet of film they shot.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like the irony is, like, it was like, yeah, like he would go on. I think wasn't Sideways about the next year or the same year? It was around Sideways around the same time.
Around the same time, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's an odd choice, but it sticks out a little bit like a thumb. But then we come back, and then so now Taya's whole thing is she wants to move Paz into the Malibu house that they've rented, for the summer. And I love the little girl who's like, who knew that, God had a backyard of, all these beautiful things in Malibu. And there's this moment, which again is an insight into his character, which is like, we're just moving in, you live with us. It's like, but I have a daughter. I can't believe you haven't told me you had a daughter. You've never once asked this woman about herself. But the damn other character is saying, well, it's your fault for not telling me. And then the solution is, well, come move in with us. It's so presumptuous and like, it's like it was,
the young lady that plays the daughter. Her name, I think, is Shelby Bruce. Doesn't work anymore. Like, I think she made a conscious decision not to continue acting.
She's absolutely gorgeous, and she's winning.
She's really good, right? And I love her little I love her little quote where she said, "I didn't know God had a toy store for the rich."
That's it. That's the line. Yeah,
I
and
wrote that down.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, now, so like I was saying before, the movie is very unfocused and should be a TV show, so you can like really, learn who these characters are. So then, if you give them more depth, maybe this makes more sense. But yeah, I mean, so now we're introduced to Christina. We only know her from narration, which Amy Garcia, like I said, was doing. And I want to put this out on the table right now. Amy Garcia, if you don't know, she is an amazing actress. She is freaking. And if you never watched Lucifer, go watch Lucifer because when she joins the cast, she takes over the show. She is freaking amazing. I love her.
Oh, I love that. And also, there's like a weird subplot, which again, when you're talking about an unfocused film, where Sandler's like, "Oh, I need sea glass that the ocean has worn down for a platter," and he's like, "I'll pay you guys X number of dollars if you find things." But this little girl who comes from very humble means takes him up seriously and is walking up and down Malibu finding all this stuff, and to the point of like what is like $650 worth of stuff, not realizing the situation, and he didn't realize what he put into motion. It's an odd moment because I feel like you've got Sandler who has dual crushes with Vega and Leone, dual surrogate daughter, and how he reacts to one of these groups of women is kind of interesting. I feel like the focus should have probably been, to Todd's point earlier, as a white writer director, should have been Adam Sandler through his lens that we tell the story, but that's not how it works. But I think the parts that are best in this movie are when it's through Sandler's eyes. So that might have been the 2004 best focus if it were to be having that rewrite. But I think there's so many good performances that he might have gotten lost in the editing room. I'm not sure. But it's interesting. And then you have a lot of like, I feel like these are insert shots that were done in editorial, like, "Dear Floor, I decided to steal your daughter for a bit. Love, Deborah." And you're like, steal your daughter for a bit. Like even the phraseology, right? Because the implicit thing is my daughter's kind of chubby and can't wear size 8. So, but your daughter's so pretty because to your point, she talks about how pretty Paz is, how pretty the daughter is. She wants beautiful things and she's very hung up on appearances. And then you've got this moment where she takes the girl out and they, both get matching hair and all this kind of stuff. And it's like the first blush of wealth and privilege this young girl has seen in America. And I don't know how to read the scene. I don't know if she felt like she was playing Taya or if she honestly was like, this is amazing. Because it's up to
the most amazing white woman she's ever met or something like that.
Yeah, that's what he says. Yeah.
And then but even Taya's character is like, that is so nice and so not true. Like even there's an awareness with it. So it's a really interesting scene that I might have workshopped that a little bit because I'm not sure that it quite works despite those two ladies in the scene together. It's a little, I don't know.
One of the things when she's narrating as her older self, as Amy Garcia is narrating the story, is during the close scene, she was like that Americans don't embrace their American women don't embrace their curvature or whatever, their with and all that.
Yeah.
Like what you're saying is, and hey, I love Paige Vega. She's awesome, but she's pretty thin. She's not a thick woman, so that doesn't really, the casting doesn't really jive with what you're trying to say in that scene.
It's like when I watch Love Actually, which is my way every Christmas, and they talk about like Hugh Grant's prime minister dating the chubby girl. I'm like, she's a size 4. Like, like stop it. She's hardly the heavyweight girl. To your point, yes.
Yeah.
We're at an hour, so I'm going to ask you guys to like speed us through to the end of this movie. So
yeah, for sure. Okay, well, basically, pretty much, we're just learning that Paige wants to keep control of her daughter. She doesn't want to relinquish control. Doesn't want her to lose her culture and everything. And this young lady, she wants to embrace both. I think. We don't really get a chance to. This is a 2-hour and 10-minute movie, yes, and I am the guy who will always give you props if you're 90 minutes or less. It never really feels like 2 hours and 10 minutes to me. I'm not going to say that for everybody because I think that maybe Todd has a completely different feel for that. But really, we're just exploring now, just getting to Deborah is cheating, and Flora knows it, and the mother knows it. And my take is either Adam is oblivious or he just doesn't care, right? He doesn't care until it comes to the moment where she confesses, and then it's like,
Yeah. Well, it's
so
interesting, but this is the part where it cuts both ways. We will wrap this up, Tom, but it's like Taya is also the mom character. Deborah is like, I can get her into a private school. This is her best shot for the future. And it's almost like this girl has the look and the feel of what she wishes her own daughter had, and she can't connect with the daughter, but she's going out of her way to do this. Whether she thinks she's a project in a Westwood kind of way or she really connects with her is up to the viewer to interpret. But it does set up a dynamic, where the girl is like, this is my way out. This is why we came to America. And then you've got one continuing thing after another where Taya's like, here's an expensive necklace. And even the daughter, she's like, oh, it's from all of us. And Paz, who has so much pride, says, it's not from me. And it's this very pointed thing where even the daughter is like, what did we get her? It's clear that it's Taya. Both women are not having Deborah's nonsense, right? And so it's interesting because the girl gets on the bus to go to the private school, and Taya feels like she's doing this great thing, and Paz is looking at this like, even the way that James L. Brooks frames this shot, Taya's in focus, the real mother is not, and there's a longing of, I want what's best for my child, but I kind of want to throat punch this chick right now, I think is how I read it. And so it's this thing of like, what are we going to do? And now she's being babysat. And of course, the irony that they're all watching Charlie's Angels, fake female empowerment, also done by Sony. So they used their own film so they didn't have to pay for it. But that's the film that she's watching, right? And you have this moment where Paz is like, what am I doing? I'm the mother. I've got to go get my child. And this is the part where I think Brooke loses the thread. We go from Paz saying it's unacceptable that my daughter is with this person. And then we do a hard cut. This is Todd's favorite scene, right? Where you've got Cloris going, girl, if you're going to save your marriage, you better be clear. I know you're catting around, but what are you doing? And Leachman can find this moment as an actress, like literally hanging into a window where she truth tells. And you're like, oh my God, and you get it. And that is so powerful. You buy that Taya comes back. Right. Oh God, I have to tell my husband I've been having an affair with, the guy that we didn't really talk about. And the look on Sandler's face, I mean, this guy is owning it. It's a beautiful performance. And you've got Paz saying, I have to quit this job. It's not okay. And Leachman knows that she's best for the family. And she also is concerned now about Paz and her girl, right? So as we wrap up the film, Paz is like, I've got to get rid of this job. They finally have the moment where they know they can't act on it as much as maybe they want to. But they're doing the right thing. And then Brooks again does a hard cut to the Deborah character. Mom, I'm trying to blame you for my own life. When of course it's like, girl, you're too old to be doing that. And we conclude with the two of them saying we can't really move on. And Sandler has this odd line of, I'm so jealous about the guy who gets you, which I felt was such a bad line to end on, because that's Paz has chosen her daughter. Paz has chosen herself. It's not about some guy getting you. And that goes back to, I think, what Todd was saying. This is like the white filmmakers who feel like they have something to say to us. I bet today he would rewrite that line. I don't think that's the right, you want to end this scene. Workshop that. It's not right, because Paz is.
I don't know, like with maturity, that you would write like this extramarital sort of friendship the same way at large. But at the time, it was the best he could do. But this is the thing. It's like, Hollywood's all about young people, but it's important to remember that old people have a more nuanced perspective on things like this.
Yes. Yeah. It's also, like, I think we have a tradition of this in America. Like this will be a short diatribe, but I love La Femme Nikita, right? The Luc Besson original, the French film, fabulous, right? We've remade it in every language. Famously, Bridget Fonda, Point of No Return here. But and I love Bridget Fonda and I miss her. I love Point of Return, God help me. But there's an interesting cultural thing in France, right? The ending of La Femme Nikita, spoiler alert, came out in the 90s, so whatever. She decides to leave. I'm not going to work with Bob anymore. I'm taking off. I now have the skills. I've paid my dues. That's what we're going to do. We get to the Bridget Fonda version, and she's trying to leave as well, but Gabriel Byrne, as her handler, sees her walking down that Venice Beach alley and goes, I'm going to let her go.
He lets her go, yeah.
And it undermines the agency of Nikita, in a sense, the Bridget Fonda character, where she should just be gone, just like the French gal was. But in America, it's no, this man is going to, Adam Sandler is gonna let you go. But we didn't cross a line, so I'm pure, even though he is the hateful character who had the affair. And it's like a little like calibration, which is why I think there's something that James L. Brooks was exercising maybe in his own life, because it's an odd male perspective to end this film. Again, to Jeff's point, you nailed it. Whose point of view is it? If it's from Sandler's point of view, I buy that line, but I don't think it is from Sandler's point of view, because the biggest arc is Paz and her daughter, who's narrating the story. So the daughter is narrating a story where the straight white guy is saying, I'm jealous of the guy who's going to get you. That's not what this film's about. And that's how you wrap it up. That's not good from the guy who gave you terms of endearment, right?
I don't know. I'll give this film credit. Yes, there is a lot of things in the writing that could be better, but it does have quotable moments.
And it has heart.
Yeah, it has quotable moments, because one of the ones I wrote down, and the one I love, I just write things down so I can get them accurate, is as Horace Leachman is confronting Taya about the affair, and Taya tries to blame her mom, and he says to her, lately your low self-esteem is just good common sense. Like that's brilliant. I'm not gonna lie, that's fucking brilliant.
That's a great line.
That's a great line. It's freaking very quotable to me. I'm just gonna put it on me.
It's quotable for a lot of people.
It's cutting too, because it's a mother, and there's also a whole subplot where we're still making fun of Cloris Leachman having an alcohol problem, and then she just stops cold turkey.
It's so easy.
We don't know why, and what there's another subplot there that was dropped, but so
again, this could be TV show. Then we could have learned that
the whole first season.
Yeah, over 5 seasons, we could have learned that she got treatment for her alcohol abuse or whatever, but it's crammed into 2 hours and 10 minutes. The whole scene of Adam and Paige at the restaurant, super sweet, and they know that this is going to be one moment in time, and they're never going to be able to recapture this. It's not going to be ongoing. And he's like, as soon as our feet hit the floor, we go back to reality. And it looks like she's going to choose him, and she says, I love you. And then her feet hit the floor. The guy doesn't get the girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
it's
in most romantic comedies, that would piss me off if the guy doesn't get the girl or the girl doesn't get the guy.
Yeah.
But this one, I'm like, okay, I'm
and he's already married. He's already got the girl. So I think that's the point.
Yeah. Todd, any last thoughts before we wrap up and go to our segment for you? First time watcher?
Yeah, I mean, look, I didn't hate the experience. It's icky in a lot of places and schmaltzy in a lot of places, but if you're stuck with your family over Thanksgiving and nobody knows what to watch, you've seen Uncle Buck too many times. So this is totally worth, definitely a great family sort of viewing thing, except for the sex scene. But it's PG-13 and it's very silly, so it's probably okay.
Comedy, as enacted by Todd and Hillary. It is played for comedy. It's amazing. Okay, so then let's go to our rapid rounds, as it were.
We'll start with Be Bad or Be Best. Tracy and I will both present titles of movies and ask you, Jeff, and then each other Is it so bad that nobody should ever see it, or it's so bad it's awesome and you gotta see it? Do you want me to go first, Trace?
Go for it.
All right, here's mine. Be Bad or Be Best. The Right Temptation. This is a movie from the year 2000. It's a neo-noir film. Rebecca De Mornay is a private detective who is hired by Dana Delaney to first follow and find out who Kiefer Sutherland is having an affair with, and then later to seduce him and prove that he is a philanderer. And there are twists and turns, and people get murdered, and Dana Delaney cries. Whether you've seen it or not, Jeff, it doesn't matter. Judge it from what I just told you. Is it Be Bad or Be Best?
Okay, well, I love Keeper. I love Rebecca De Mornay. I love Dana Delaney. I have not seen this film, but now I'm gonna go watch it because this has got to be a Be Best. Those three just tell me. All right, here's my money, and I'm gonna come watch your movie now.
Tracy, have you seen it?
I actually have seen this. I have a hi Pliskin. I don't know if Pliskin's seen it. Hello,
Hi.
Plisker. He wants to participate tonight. I love Dana Delaney because China Beach Forever, the great McMurphy. I think she's amazing. I did see this movie, but I only saw it once. My memory was I had a good time, that I liked it. And I also love the whole cast is great, but there's something about Delaney. She did a movie, a Paul Schrader film called Light Sleeper with Susan Sarandon before she was.
Yeah, I know that one.
Delaney is so amazing in that movie, and I just hi Plisker. But I just feel like Dana Delaney should have a bigger movie career, and I totally support Jeff on this. Like, if you haven't seen it, definitely see it, and I might watch it again too because I remember digging it. It's a little dirty but fun.
Oh yeah, it's dirty, but it's totally fun. It's like, it came out in 2000, but it's definitely the 90s.
Yes, it's still sexual,
cheesy thriller vibe. I'm a sucker for that. So yeah, this is great fun.
Well, I wanted to do this is a flashback because I finally, as Todd's been on my ass about this, I finally caught up because I don't know what I've been doing, probably mostly being depressed about a couple weeks ago. But I finally got to see The Substance with Demi Moore, and as much as I really wanted to love it, I love Demi Moore, so I'll say that. And I'm really excited for Miss Qualley and her DNA award-winning body. Amazing. However, didn't love the movie as much as I wanted to. I'm with Todd on this one. I think it has a lot of problems. And part of it for me was I don't know what they're trying to say. I don't really get what the point is. And I think if a man directed the exact same film, we would not be calling it a feminist body horror film. We'd be calling it something else. That being said, the ooey gooey part to this movie reminded me of a film that I have loved since I was a teenager doing Tower Records shit. And so I wanted to just weigh in with you fellas tonight. I know Todd will know this movie. Jeff probably will too. But so Jeff Guest goes first. I am thinking about Brian Yesna's, of course, Society, which I think said everything I think The Substance wanted to say, but better in the 80s with Billy Warlock. Have you seen Society, Jeff? Be Bad, Be Best. It's not what you think it is the trailer.
Right. I'm looking at the video art or the video case. I know I've seen this movie because I definitely picked it up in a video store.
Mm-hmm.
Don't really remember much about it, so I cannot give you an honest whether it's Be Bad or Be Best. But I will watch it and I will let you know.
We'll do a follow up on our page. Todd, now that I've caught up with The Substance, do you see the connection between Society and the shunting and whatever the hell the last 20 years?
There's so many movies of Society's era.
Yeah.
And Cronenberg in the 80s and 90s.
Right?
There's so much body horror that Substance was going after, and I felt like it failed. And Society is way better at it. And I guess the thing is, now that I think about it, Cronenberg's Rabid is what the substance wanted to be. But a society way, like society, to compare the body horror society, body horror lands so much harder and is so much more effective, and it's so much grosser. And like I'm a guy who's not like, I can accept CG effects. I'm not like, I can't deal with it. I can accept it. A lot of my favorite movies are CG heavy, but the body horror of society, because it's all practical and covered in KY jelly and shit, is way more visceral and way more disturbing than the substance wanted to be.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad. Okay. So Jeff, you got to let us know what you think about it. But
I still think it's a B best. I don't know, unless it's because it's also disgusting and disturbing. So it could go south. But either way, it's only because it's an effective movie. Should we do when bad films happen to good actors, Tracy? Do you have one of those?
I do. Just because I think it's funny. Not all these people may be the best actors on the planet, but the one came to mind because I think deep down, it's funny because let me pull the connection. So when Jeff brought Spanglish to us, and I was like, this is an $80 million movie. Oh my God. Like, we don't, like, holy crap. Got paid $20 million.
20 out of the gate went to Sandler, right?
Probably. And Taya probably got 15 because, she's the woman. So like that, maybe 10, maybe 10, I don't know. But like, it's like, if
you're giving your actors that much money, God bless.
Yeah, but like, again, this is a talking head movie. I don't know, but
I scale and clearly can do the same things as Adam Sandler.
As you saw tonight, everybody watching this program, hello.
If anyone wants to save money, just think about it.
Just say. So one of the things I should put quotation marks around it. When we get a big budget studio picture that falls flat on its ass and overspends and then puts all these people into one movie, I usually find a way to like it because I kind of like dig it. The movie, I want to say, most of these people I think are really good people. Cats. James Corden, Judi Dench, Idris Elba, Jennifer Hudson, Ian McKellen, Taylor Swift, Rebel Wilson, and Francesca Hayward being introduced and probably again. Cats. This is a film that has Judi Dench wearing, as a cat, a fur coat, which begs the question, are you a cannibal cat? And she has a wedding ring on and she's wearing a coat even though she's a cat. Complicated. They keep referring to Idris Elba's character, who's clearly a black man, as the orange Angelico, and I was like, he's not orange. And when you think it can't get better, Taylor Swift shows up and puts catnip over people like in a cat rave. And I'm like, this is the stuff of like, if I did drugs, I'd do them and watch the film. But I don't. So I watched this at the Alamo Draft House before the pandemic at the rowdy screening where my cocktails were served in a cat's like food saucer situation. And so I was drinking out of a cat food saucer, and everyone was apparently a theater major because they all were dressed like cats. And it was the rare screening where you were allowed to, every time someone said someone's name, because it was one of those things like, hey, Jeff, how you doing? Did you know my friend Todd? Todd, you know Jeff. Hey, it's Tracy. Blah, blah. And you're like, every time someone said a cat's name, people were doing shots. And then by the end, the people who were theater majors dressed as cats who were drunk off their ass. So we had drunk cats in the theater with an unintelligible screenplay. And I'm drinking out of a cat's eye. I'm like, this is the best experience ever. And then the world shut down a week later. And I just want to say, you guys, Ian McKellen, Dame Judi Dench, I don't know how it happened, but you guys are good people. It was a bad film and it happened.
But they're the only two who didn't deserve it. Everybody else did?
I think Idris is amazing. I just feel bad for him. I also don't understand why in the film cats are hanging out by the water on the boat.
I have no desire to ever see cats. But now I think I do. Does this have any? Let me ask you this: does this have any Rocky Horror Picture Show type vibes that you can get out of it?
Yes.
even though
A
Rocky Horror Picture Show is great.
a little bit, but more. I mean, Rocky Horror Picture Show is actually like one of those rare comedies that strives for camp and actually is campy at the same time as
Dr. Scott shows up and then the film goes down. Jeff, here's what's
entertaining. All I'm saying is entertaining. Cats is intermittently entertaining only because you're like, they're not.
No,
How can they? And they keep making these terrible choices, but in between those terrible choices, it's extremely dull. It's bizarre how dull it is.
I will say,
and then you become stupid, and you're like, what?
I had some cocktails. So, Jeff, to your question, here's the thing: if you're going to watch Cats, I would say pick a cocktail or whatever you do. But one of the things to look for is like if this is the size of a cat, and then this is the trash can, and then the next shot they do this. The cats become so there's no scale to the cat.
No.
So there are times where the cats are bigger than the building, and then there are times where they're smaller than the trash can in the same scene. And when you see that level of special effects work, because I have no money and I'm on post right now on my movie, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not making a Cats mistake. I understand scale. Like I actually referenced Cats twice today to this special effect. I was like, we can't make this fucking mistake, right? So like when you see with Cats with a universal budget, and you've got the cannibal Judi Dench cat with a fur coat, and Ian McKellen's like, I'm stoned, well, I'm an old cat. And you're like, I don't know what's happening. And then you can't adjust before Taylor Swift shows up, and she's like, ah! I'm like, I can't, like, it's this thing where I can't believe this is a Universal movie. It's special. I'm just.
It is train wreck.
It's train wreck cinema. Is it
I don't mind watching a car crash every once in a while.
Well, this is like a pile up on the 405. So
yeah, you might want to do it in 10-minute increments over a few weeks. But
I've done that for the movie before. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you'll have fun. Just don't do the whole thing at once. It's too much. It's too much. So mine is, everybody who knows me knows, I love Rhoda Mitchell. And so I watch, like, there are very few actors in this world anymore that I'm like, oh, they're in it, I'll watch it. Rhoda Mitchell is one. If she's in some random movie that I find streaming, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So here is this movie called Devil's Workshop, and it stars Rhoda Mitchell as a demonologist, and this pretty boy, kind of, to be frank, he's kind of a Twinkie actor type, Timothy Granaderos, I don't know. And Emile Hirsch is in it. So this Timothy guy and Emile Hirsch they're dueling actors, and they're going out for the same part. And Emile Hirsch is this impossible, stereotype asshole actor who's just trying to fuck everybody over and is a kiss ass and all that stuff. And so the actor who hates Emile Hirsch, this Timothy Granaderos guy, he goes and employs demonologist Rhoda Mitchell so he can make a deal with a demon to make sure he gets this part.
Wow.
Now, most of this movie, the Emile Hirsch thing is like quickly abandoned, and it comes in every now and then, like randomly, where he's just like, I don't know if he's doing self-parody or if he's trying to make fun of some douchebag actor that he knows, but he's just the world's douchiest, unfamous actor. And then the rest of the movie is Rhoda Mitchell just like playing mind games with this sad actor who is worried about Emile Hirsch taking his part. And I love her so much. I watched the entire movie, and I enjoyed watching her. But it was the movie just talked in circles. It's like what do they call it when an episode is like of TV is cheap and it's all takes place on one
bottle episode. Yeah.
So this is feels like a bottle episode of a TV show that's stretched into feature length. So it's just the demonologist, who of course is a demon. I mean, it's pretty obvious from the get-go what's happening. And she's just like seducing him, and it like after a while you get really bored. But then like I was like, oh, I love Rhoda Mitchell. She's really good, and she's good in this. But she just did this like 5 minutes ago. We're just seeing her do the same thing over and over and over again. Yeah. And then out of nowhere, she's giving him. He's naked on a bed, and she's giving him a sponge bath with a giant sponge
on a bed,
like really focusing her attention on his perfectly shaped buttocks. And then I was like, oh, is this a good movie? Have I not been paying attention? But no, it's not. And I just want more for Rhoda Mitchell. I like her indie movies a lot of times, but I want more for her than this.
That's amazing. I will say I have not seen this film, but Rhoda Mitchell win. I actually think one of the criminally underrated and it was well rated, but not enough people saw it. Underseen, High Art with Ali Sheedy, her kind of comeback.
Oh, I liked High Art. Yeah.
She and Ali Sheedy in that movie together are so amazing. I got lucky. I did a really not good Avi Lerner movie that we went to Bulgaria and made called Thick as Thieves with Antonio Banderas and Morgan Freeman and Rhoda Mitchell. And she, Todd, is not only stunning in real life, but the coolest chick, super nice, everything you want her to be. She came in and we had a great cast on that. We had Robert Forrester, RIP, Rhoda Mitchell, Antonio, and Morgan. And I'm like, why in the hell are we in Bulgaria with Mimi Leader directing? You know what I mean? Like we had a studio film behind this supporting Mimi and that cast, but again, that's another story. But RhodaIsTheBomb.com, super serious, super great. I think she and Vera Farmiga are in a weird way, like criminally underrated, always gorgeous, always interesting, always, I don't know if I can trust them or not. They can be good girls, they can be bad girls, they can be everything in between.
I think you hit on it earlier, Tracy. Like this is about soulful performer. They're soulful. Whether they're a bad person or a good person, there's a soulful element to their performance.
Well, because they have both of those women. There's so much life behind their eyes that like they fill in things. Like even if they're, and I think they're also the kind of you're the actor, but like to my mind, actors that like are listeners are the ones that I think steal the scenes. Like Morgan gets by because he may or may not be thinking about anything, but when you put him on screen, you can cut to him no matter where you are in a scene. You can cut to Morgan and he'll make it work. And I think Rod is that. I think Vera's that. I think there are certain people that Dana's that. I mean, half of China Beach is her looking out at an empty seat crying, and I'm like, meh! It's like she's so good, and I just feel like I have to see this movie now because I love demonologist shit. Like,
well, yeah, you could do worse. It's a look at your phone a lot movie. I don't suppose you've seen it, Jeff. Have you?
No, not yet, but I will.
See, Jeff, we're doing the scorecard of like fun stuff. I mean, now I have one to watch too. I'm excited.
I mean,
what's that?
I'm sorry. If I have a bad movie that happened to great actors, it's called Polar. It is on Netflix with Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh yeah, Polar. Yeah, I watched that.
Yeah, so it's like two different movies. Like all the Mads Mikkelsen stuff is awesome, but then everything else outside of him is like, what the fuck is this? This is horrible. It is so bad.
Can we just say Mads? By the way, Mads, if you put Mads with Rhoda, I'm here for that love story.
Oh, fuck yeah. That would be hella good.
They're two of the coolest. Like, they're a little off and super sexy, and they can both do anything. They're so talented.
Polar is just go watch it. You have to experience it once, no matter how terrible it is.
Okay.
So you can watch Mads Mikkelsen be freaking awesome, and then the rest of the movie you be like, oh my god.
Yeah, it is definitely one of them.
I love this. All right.
Let's end on a positive note, Tracy, and we'll boost some movies. Would you like to go first?
Sure. I want to boost. I think it's probably still my favorite David O. Russell film. It's before I knew he was bad for actors. I think it's a brilliant screwball comedy in the 90s. It was the first time I knew Téa Leoni from The Ugly Truth, which was one of her TV shows back in the day. I thought, oh, she's really interesting. And then I saw her in Bad Boys, and I thought she's the only woman that I know of who's ever kept her coolness in a Michael Bay film. So that should count for something. When she's handcuffed to the steering wheel, and she's like, "College do you go to?" I'm like, okay, who's that? Who's that? That's Carol Lombard. That's who that is. Who's that girl? But the first time I was like, she's really Carol, would be the great Flirting with Disaster. We are talking about Ben Stiller, Patricia Arquette, Téa Leoni, Alan Alda, Mary Tyler Moore, George Segal, and the great Lily Tomlin. It's screwball comedy perfection. It was his follow-up from Spanking the Monkey. It's like if Spanking the Monkey was high school, this is grad school. And what he does with this cast, but Téa has these, much like this movie where she mounts Sandler, right? In the sex, she does this thing with Ben Stiller in the hallway, and it's like this like physical comedian Carol Burnett thing, except she's, you know, super beautiful, hot, like craziness. She's at once the female star, but also a screwball comedian, and then super whatever. So if you like Spanglish, this is the beginning of her neurotic thing. And there's something really, it's a crazy story. Any movie that casts the great Patricia Arquette as the dowdy wife, I have questions about. But, you know, Patricia's there, and you've got this interesting duck and Perry between Patricia Arquette and Téa Leoni, and then Ben Stiller is in the middle, much like Adam Sandler between Paz and Téa, perhaps. That's the link. And I just wanted to boost this film because I think it's old enough now that younger audiences may not know Flirting with Disaster. It's not one that I see in retro showings. It's not one I see up on cable.
Yeah.
A really good film. And just if nothing else, to have Alan Alda and Lily Tomlin as ex-hippie couples who are like taking acid with Ronald Reagan's face on their tongues in the third act, like you have to see it.
Richard Jenkins tripping out.
All of it. It's like the best cast, but it's a pitch perfect screwball comedy, and it's the kind of comedy that I miss that we used to be able to do. And again, it's the Miramax era of yesteryear, but Téa is so freaking good in this movie. And I remember when she first was brought up by CBS to be the lead in Madam Secretary, because in my head I was like, we're gonna go to Diane Lane, right? And then CBS was like, what about Téa? And I thought, oh my God, Flirting with Disaster. Like, yes, can we get her? Would she go back to TV? And that was the movie that I thought, oh, yes. And I also think it's another film that people maybe don't remember because Brett Ratner sucks or whatever, but A Family Man, where she's able to make Nick Cage look good in a contained performance. She's wonderful with Nick Cage. She's wonderful in Dick and Jane with Carrie. She's wonderful with Sandler, as we just saw. I wanted to boost Téa because I'm so grateful for her to say yes, because that's why my show got on the air. I think she's really talented, and I miss her being in movies and TV. And now she's in Murder in the Buildings next season, so I'm excited about that. But I think David O. Russell did his best work in Flirting with Disaster, so I wanted to boost it in case people hadn't seen it, because I think it's worth a second look if you haven't seen it in a minute.
Three Kings is good too.
Love Three Kings.
Also, the Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial that he directed with
that
me.
Was Todd Anderson starring.
Very good. It's excellent. I'm going to boost this thing for a brief moment. We're going to be my favorite shitty TV movie. Currently, you can see this TV movie from the 80s streaming on Prime and Tubi and other places.
No!
Brotherhood of Justice.
Oh.
It's Keanu Reeves.
Billy Zane?
No, it's Keanu.
Yeah, it's Keanu, Kiefer, and Billy Zane.
He's a small part.
Keanu's the lead. He's a guy who starts up at the behest of the school principal, or misinterpreted by the kids. They start a vigilante group who starts, beating up people who have stolen or selling drugs or whatever.
You guys.
And Kiefer is the sweet guy who just moved into town. That Keanu's girlfriend, played by, what's the name of the lady who went to jail because she tried to cheat her kids into college? Who's not
Huffman.
Felicity Huffman?
No, the other one.
Laughlin.
Lori Loughlin, thank you. It's Lori Loughlin's his girlfriend, but she, he starts being a vigilante and she like drifts apart and hooks up with Kiefer, and then maybe they're going to get revenge on Kiefer. But that's wrong, and that's, anyway, the 80s fashions in this are delightful. And of course, the performances are. There are some moments of. I'm not here to shit on Keanu Reeves, but there's some moments in this movie where you can tell that Keanu hadn't connected, like, where it was in the scene, because it's a cut. Like, there'll be a scene where he's having a hardcore conversation with his little brother in the kitchen, and then he leaves, and then they cut to him walking out the door, and he says into the door, "See you later." Like they hadn't just had a giant fight. So there's a lot of that kind of juicy, bad TV, because TV shoots really fast. It doesn't matter if it's a TV movie. They got it done in 2 weeks.
Back in the day, it was a 20-day shoot.
Zane is great. There's a couple other guys, including a guy who I did a Pizza Hut commercial with, or no, Domino's. It was a Domino's commercial with, who's in this movie. But I just, if you're a Gen Xer and you like this kind of vigilante stuff and you're cool with like the TV movie, so it's not quite like Death Wish. It doesn't have the, impact visually of that because it's a TV movie and there's only so much they can show, but very fun. And Billy Zane, of course, playing the usual douchebag that Billy Zane plays is phenomenal.
I do want
to see him as Marlon Brando.
I cannot wait for that either. But I do want to say, before Billy Zane became kind of like the eyebrows that were waxed in a 1912 Titanic, before that, there is an independent movie. Look it up if you can find it, called Blood and Concrete. And I saw that at a film festival in Palm Springs. And it was a year after the first time I ever saw Billy Zane was in Dead Calm. And I'm like, this guy is Brando. I thought that. I was like, holy shit. He's hot. He's amazing. He has talent. Oh my God. And then I saw Blood and Concrete as an indie film in Palm Springs. And then I was over in London my sophomore year in college, and it played at the BFI. And so I saw it at the British Film Institute, and I saw it with a British audience who also freaked out. It's a gem of an independent film. You would love it, Todd, because it's like super like grindhouse action adventure. It's funny. It's amazing. But he should have, there was a version of him being that guy. I don't know what happened to the Phantom and the,
I like the Phantom. It's like, I'm the guy who likes the Phantom.
Oh, I do too, but for the wrong reasons. And so,
as far as if you look at it as an Indiana Jones ripoff, it's pretty fun.
It could have been better, but I like it again. It's like I like Showgirls because you're like so like that. But I think that that's such a good cast, and again, but I do want to say, and also watch Dead Calm if you haven't again.
Oh, it's great.
It brought Philip Noyce over here. George Miller directed some of the sequences, and Noyce really became an international filmmaker because that was a big hit. So
he's nice. He's nice.
Noyce.
I have a boost if you don't mind.
Yeah, Jeff, go.
Please.
Okay, so in 2007, Don Cheadle and Adam Sandler had this movie called Reign Over Me.
Oh, okay.
Reign Over Me was absolutely 100% the best movie of 2007. Still the one Best Picture, wasn't nominated. Adam Sandler should have been nominated for Best Actor for that performance, wasn't nominated. This movie is about a man who loses everything from 9/11, and his best friend from university accidentally runs into him in Manhattan. They reconnect. It is if you want to see Adam Sandler do a dramatic role that will make you cry and make you love, you have got to go and watch Reign Over Me if you've never seen that movie.
Love this.
It's so infuriating to me that the Academy didn't even recognize this movie in 2007. It is better than any movie that came out in 2007 that did get nominated. Daniel Day-Lewis won Best Actor for that year for There Will Be Blood or whatever.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Adam Sandler's performance in Reign Over Me is the best
I love
performance
this.
of '07.
You heard it here first, folks.
Thank you, Jeff. Like, this is why this show is for. Like, it's for film buffs to like either remind yourself to rewatch things or find things you haven't seen, and also to revisit if it's been a minute, right? So it's like I love that. Thank you, Jeff, for coming
Thank
back on.
you very much, Jeff. It's always great to have you.
Oh, you got it. Yeah, thank you.
Everybody out there, if you're in an auto accident, call Geico and demand that Jeff Luce handles your insurance and adjustments.
The thing.
Thank you so much.
Also, we should say to viewers, because we are going to observe the Thanksgiving holiday. I would like to boost for the Thanksgiving holiday. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm going to boost the Eli Roth film, Thanksgiving. It's a little title, but let's do it. But secretly, the one I really want you to watch, if you haven't already seen it, is Blood Rage from the 80s, because it's a wonderful slasher. It has one of my favorite poster taglines ever, right? It's a Thanksgiving slasher film, and it's like the tagline is, "That's not cranberry sauce."
Right. And if you've ever longed to hear the name Todd spoken a lot out loud in a movie, almost constantly, Blood Rage is your movie. It's great. All right, everybody. We'll see you after the Thanksgiving holiday to wrap up our shitty movie year in this late November and December.
Sure.
All right. All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Tracy, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Good night.
All right. Adios.